You Complete Me Ho is the first comedy special from a star who's made audiences laugh for a decade, Ken Jeong, and it will compete in the variety categories at the Emmy Awards. I'm Matt Noble at Gold Derby, here to ask Jeong, what's your favorite joke in the Netflix special?
That's a great question. I think I don't know if I have a favorite joke, but I think my favorite segment was the last 10 minutes of the special where I'm talking about my wife and her fight against breast cancer, of which she's cancer free now 11 years. So I think kind of telling that story from my point of view and weaving that in with the hangover and how that kind of impacted my life, not only professionally, but personally as well. That's probably my favorite. It's probably my favorite thing I've ever done in stand up was writing that moment. It was very cathartic. And I wrote that ending first before I did anything else. So I kind of reverse engineered it. So that's probably my favorite.
Yeah, it's interesting because like you sort of start the special with the jokes about your wife's name, Ho, and you
Yeah.
complete me Ho, and then you come back to it at the end with the more extended sort of bit that's a bit more personal, probably.
Yeah.
What's it like for a stand-up special working on a bit like that at the end, where I would imagine the laughs come differently than they do in other stand-up bits.
Yeah, that's another great question because I workshop that story all around clubs and even open mics. I would just around Los Angeles, and it would, and I went in there with expectations that it's not going to get these belly laughs, that like other comedians would normally get. So, but to me, it was more of I just want to see if the audience was listening, and if I and also there are some jokes within those stories that serve as kind of undercuts, and just to relieve some of the tension but to keep the story going, to kind of pace it up. So I think I was using kind of my club time to kind of workshop any of the undercuts. I think that was it was fun. It was actually the most fun I've had doing stand up. Was really just kind of workshopping the show at different points, because it was very open ended. It was an open ended canvas. So and there was no deadline really to be had. I just decided one day to go back and do stand up, and was fortunate enough to get a Netflix special, and even more fortunate to have it released and have people see it. So I think that's what makes that particular project just so memorable for me, because I didn't necessarily, I guess, have to do it, and but it kind of rekindled my love for stand up, and I'm still doing it to this day, still trying to fit in live dates just because I love doing it. Yeah.
That's good. And your wife was in the special, sitting up the back. How many? It was that the first time she'd like seen that bit, or had she gone to some of the clubs as you were working on that scene and heard it before?
She had gone to some of the clubs and seen me work on it before, but it was actually the director of my special, John Chu, who directed Crazy Rich Asians. That was his idea, to have a to have her in the audience and have a camera on her. I wasn't even. I was thinking the whole time it would be on me and not necessarily Trey and my wife. So that was really his idea, to have that focus, and that really worked. I mean, it really did. And but that was she sat she sat through that show. That was very It was a very, at times, intense experience. So no, that was the first time she sat there, and we had to do some pickup shots, and to be fully immersed in it. That was really that was more intense than the other times that she went, and just to go to the show. Yeah.
Now, did you, like in the special, you say that Crazy Rich Asians helped you let go of Dr. Ken getting cancelled. Did the special and your work on that help you let go of anything?
I think just doing stand up helped me let go of Dr. Ken. So I think by the time the special came out, you know, in many ways, I was already kind of healed up, because I think I think what I missed most about Dr. Ken was creating story. I was one of I created the show, and I was also one of the main executive producers on it. And I had my hand in everything on that show, and I thoroughly enjoyed it, because it was the only time in my career that I really had to have that I had actual say, like legit, like real significant say on storylines, characters, other characters, just everything a part of that show. And I was really able to produce, and I took advantage of that opportunity. So, and I really miss being in the writer's room a lot on my show. And so after the show ended, I just, even though I was very fortunate enough to get acting work like in Crazy Rich Asians and other movies, I did feel like a little bit of a vacuum where I had gotten used to creating, you know, and creating scenes or writing scenes, and I wanted to keep that flow up, and stand up kind of came up organically. And it was really my manager really said, it was like, why don't you go back and try stand up, see if you like it. I hadn't done stand up in 10 years, and I had done stand up for over 15 years prior to The Hangover, so I'd gotten my start, but I hadn't really I really didn't. I thought I kind of closed that chapter in my career with stand-up comedy, and then I really just did it for me, and I tried it out at some clubs around LA, particularly the Ice House. I did a lot of shows there. The biggest number of shows I did at the Ice House, workshopping the act for months. So it was very fitting that we did it, you know, and I'm grateful to Netflix to allow me to film it there, and I really think that added a lot to it. It was very much a club set with a club vibe and great energy. So very thankful to the management and the owners at the Ice House, and to Netflix for kind of allowing me to do that. Yeah.
You really sort of, in a sense, get a slice of Hollywood life from
Yeah.
watching your special. And what have you and since the show, you know, you've been in well, since you were probably working on that set, you've been on The Masked Singer as a judge there. You've done it. What have you learnt from Hollywood and entertainment, like over the past sort of decade?
I think that it's evolved tremendously from, you know, from my first movie in Knocked Up and that I filmed in '06 and to 2019, how there has been changes in movie making, filmmaking, tentpole films, streaming with Netflix. I've really seen a whole evolution, you know, happen. And not only that, I've evolved, you know, and I think that, you know, I had left my medical my medical job and not knowing exactly what I was going to do, and so I found myself evolving over those kind of 12 plus years. So it's been a combination of evolution on both sides, and I think I definitely think that the lines have been blurred because of streaming between like movies and TV. I think that was more demarcated, I think, when I first started, whereas now there is just a lot of crossover. So that to me has been the biggest evolution. So when you see Meryl Streep on an HBO show now, it really has changed. So and I think that's a good thing. I think acting is acting, performance is performance. And I do remember when I first started out, I was so blissfully naive about like, oh, don't do too much of this genre. You may not be able to do that genre. So I really didn't know that distinction until I was in the business, and to have those lines kind of be blurred is, I think, a good thing, because I think work is work, and good projects are good projects, no matter what the platform.
And something, as I mentioned, The Masked Singer is sort of something that sort of blew up this year on TV. And what was your experience of that? Like, what was your favorite thing about that gig?
I think my favorite thing is that I even did it at all, because I think that my like I remember when I was offered to be a panelist on it, I asked my mom about it, and my mom, I'm of Korean descent, and my mom, although she lives in America now, she still gets all her Korean TV shows via satellite dish, and she said it's called King of Mass Singers in Korea. That's what the original show that the U.S. Mass Singer is based on. And I actually told my mom, I was like, I remember you mentioning this Mass Singer show. I just got offered to be a judge or a panelist. And my mom was the one who really advocated. She was, you got to do it. It's a huge hit. She goes, I honestly think it's going to help. It's going to help your career. I'll be like, I was like, really? And then she sent me YouTube links, and I totally got it. And then I asked my wife about it, and we watched the episode together. And because I was kind of going back and forth on it, and my wife was like, "No, this is good. It could be," and she was like, "This could be a family show." You know, that was when my wife added that insight. And then so once I kind of had the confidence to do it, by the time it aired, it really did evolve into something. And no one knew, even in production, no one knew it would be literally the biggest hit on television, ratings wise, because I think it just tapped into a zeitgeist that the public was craving for. I credit Craig Plestis and Izzy Picabara and Rob Wade and the people at Fox, for kind of greenlighting that show. They're the ones who took the gamble and the risk, and it paid off. And I was just one of the beneficiaries of it. But having said that, we're about to start up season 2 in a couple months, and I'm excited. It'll be fun.
Yeah. Oh, man.
Judge. I don't know anything. I think the best thing about it, I literally don't know. I'm not qualified to be on that show. I'm not a trained singer. I shouldn't be on that show. And I just kind of was very loose about it. And I felt like I was a Homer Simpson of the show when I'm guessing the poodle is Dog the Bounty Hunter, and they're like, and the producer, and I'm like, is it okay if I'm joking around? They're like, do it. That's what you're here for. You're here to just add some levity and some escape to it, and so it was kind of, they liked the stupidity that I was bringing to the show. So it really kind of loosened me up even more. So, because I would just say the stupidest stuff. I literally would say with a straight face, Mitch McConnell, welcome to the Masked Singer. I would just say all these things, and I kept guessing everybody was Ruth Bader Ginsburg. It was just very, 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 very dumb.
Yeah, it's good to see your stupidity has gotten you somewhere in the industry. Yeah.
I know. I had to feel like Dr. Ken, where it was supposed to be based on my smartness, and who knew that ratings in television is really, really, really dependent on how stupid you are, and tapping into that. And I'm like, aha, television,
Did Ken, of all the Masked Singers from season 1, which one were you most surprised by out of all?
That's easy. Margaret Cho, who was the poodle in the show. I was actually embarrassed by it because we're friends. She played my sister on Dr. Ken, and I knew she could sing, but I know she could sing that well. And all the judges, but me personally, I was way off the mark. And I remember being very embarrassed by that. I felt bad, like, because even Margaret said, I was really, she even said from the stage, I really expected you to guess who I was. It was really, that was easily the most surprising one for me.
Will she ever let you forget this? That you?
No, she will not. No, I saw her recently at the Comedy Store, and I think there's always that in the back of her head. It goes unspoken now, but it's always like, "Hey, Margaret." It's like, yeah, I know. But there's always that moment now.
Yeah. Did you ever introduce? Oh, I'm Margaret Cho. Like, You might not recognize me, but you were also this past season on the new show The Kids Are All Right, playing Grover Young for an episode. You'll probably be competing for the guest actor race at the Emmys for that. What was it like going into that world and playing that character?
It was great. I mean, I really just did it for Tim Doyle, who is the creator and showrunner of The Kids Are All Right on ABC. It's really, I just think it's one of the best shows out there, not just sitcoms and or not just comedies, because it's based on his life. It's authentic. There's no other show like that. It's a period piece, and I really just did it for him. He had an episode with me in mind, and he was a consultant on Dr. Ken and had written some of my favorite Dr. Ken episodes. And he has been a veteran of sitcom writing since I was a kid. So we're good friends, and I really just did it for him. And what I realized, watching the show, it's truly there's no other comedy like that. And I think it's headlined by Mary McCormick and Michael Cudlitz, who are like amazing actors I'm huge fans of, and to share scenes with them, it was great. And I give a shout out to Tim and all of the writers on the show, and some of the writers on the show wrote for Dr. Ken as well. So I think about 4 or 5 writers wrote on my show. So that was really my history with that show, and it was just a good excuse just to see some old friends, and in the guise of work. That was the main reason I did it. And he wrote me a nice part where he just kind of wrote it to my strengths, and I'm just so glad. I'm just so glad I had, we had time in our schedules to kind of make that fit.
Yeah. And just to sort of ping pong all over the place, you had a cameo in the End Game, the Avengers End Game, that is doing quite well at the moment. Ken, what was it like popping into that?
Well, Joe and Anthony Russo, they were the original directors of Community, and they were really instrumental in helping Dan Harmon, kind of producing that show. And we're old friends, now going on a decade. So Joe and Anthony, in their past work, they always bring cameos from Community, as well as Arrested Development, another amazing show that they worked on. And so
they won Emmys for an Emmy for Arrested Development.
They did. And so needless to say, me, Joe, and Anth, we go way back. Like we're just legit friends. And so they had an idea and they asked me to do it, and I just showed up, and that was really it. So I basically I would do anything for those guys, and it was just a lot of fun. But that was all Joe and Anth, and so just to even be a part of it was a big thrill. But it's nice. You bring up a point where where I've been fortunate enough to work for so long, and it's nice to have it's nice to do projects like that where you're working with friends, and it's really, it just gives it a nice extra layer, to kind of my career and what kind of comedy is all about. It's about working with people you love and fellowship with really amazingly talented filmmakers and also showrunners and writers. And I think that's kind of what has to answer your earlier question, what has really evolved over the past 10 years is it's so great where things come. I've had a lot of full circle moments, in the past year or two. And then also even with the Netflix special, like with Judd Apatow and Todd Phillips of The Hangover, they both reached out and they said they loved the special, and that, those kind of moments really mean a lot to me, and yeah, it's quite an honor.
Yeah. And with the way the Marvel comic universe is expanding, who knows? Maybe you have your own film in a couple of years. Security guard origin story. Well, Ken, it's been so great to chat. And to all those that are watching this video, you can go to goldderby.com right now to make your predictions so you can compete against our experts, editors, and other fans to prove you're the smartest procrastinator in Hollywood. But before you go, you can click our subscribe button so that you're alerted to great chats with other big Hollywood stars. Ken, thanks so much.
Thank you so much, Matt. Thank you
No
very
worries.
much. All right. Cheers.